In his presence there is comfort. In his presence there is peace. When we seek the Father's heart, we will find such blessed assurance in the presence of the Lord. Cover me, Lord, with your presence.
Good morning and welcome to Unveiled, a presentation of the Church Street Church of Christ in Lewisburg, Tennessee. Unveiled is simply a one-on-one conversation between Christian people designed to help each of us, as followers of Christ, become more aware of and better respond to the presence of God at work in our daily lives. My guest today is Talitha Liggett, and Talitha, I want to first of all thank you for being with me today.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to do this.
All right. So as we have been accustomed to starting each week, I want to just ask you to introduce yourself to me, to our listening audience. I know you've been around here for a long time. Many people probably know you pretty well, but go ahead and just tell us whatever you'd like for us to know about Talitha Liggett.
Okay. I am Talitha Barron Liggett. I was born on June the 8th, 1956. Right across the street from here in what used to be the old Gordon Hospital. I was born to parents Hoyt and Ollie Mae Barron, and we lived on a farm. Mom and Dad raised dairy cows and pigs and goats and tobacco and a vegetable garden, and so we pretty much lived off the farm. I'm a fourth sibling. I have one brother that's younger than me and three sisters that were older than me. So we had a pretty good sized family. I lived there on the farm all my life and went off to college to Martin Methodist College in Pulaski when it was a 2-year school. I graduated from there in 1976 and came home in May and got married in November of that year to Joe Boyd Liggett, and we will be married 45 years, November the 27th of this year.
Yeah, congratulations.
So that's coming up pretty quick. We, at the time we married, we lived on Fox Lane in a little house that was brand new, had just been built. And we lived there for 6 years. Mary was born while we lived there. And when she was 2, we moved back home, I call it. We moved back to 1976 Old Columbia Road, which was a home place of Mr. and Ms. Edwards. And they had been like grandparents to me. And so we moved back there, and Mr. Edwards was still living, and we took care of him, and he stayed there with us for about 3 or 4 years, I think. And so we've made our home on Old Columbia Road pretty much all my life.
So is the house you live in now, is it your home place that you grew up in?
Well, no, but it was like my home place because they were neighbors to Mom and Dad. And like I say, they were like my grandparents. They never had children.
So it was their home that you're living in now?
It was their home, yes. And they were very special. They were, like I said, I only had one grandparent that I knew during my lifetime, and that was my grandmother, my mother's mom, and she lived there with us at our home place. And but Mr. and Ms. Edwards, I called them Eddie and Coco. But anyway, they lived up the hill, and they never had children, and so they were like grandparents. And I spent probably as much time there as I did at home. So, because I kind of got my way there, got to do anything I wanted to do.
So is the house that you grew up in still there?
It is, and my brother lives there in the home place, and so we're still neighbors.
That's funny. So how much property do you have there at your house right now?
Well, when we moved there, the original place, there were 96 acres. And when my dad died, Mom divided part of the farm up with us. And so right now, I think we have somewhere around 300 acres.
Okay. Now, your daughter lives out there as well?
Mary lives kind of on the back of our place. Our place and their place join. You go into their home place off of Ewing Lane, which coincidentally was the road that Joe lived on all of his life. So she's there on the back side of our place. They built a house and have been there for about 3 years.
Okay. And you have another daughter as well.
I do. Her name is Hannah, and right now she lives in the Verona area, but she hopes to be building soon also in the neighborhood on Old Columbia Road.
Okay, so you're going to have kind of a family compound out there.
We hope so.
Well, when you look back on obviously some very real and vivid memories growing up at that place and seeing the place you grew up every single day, when you look back on your childhood, I'm interested in your religious background. What do you remember about your religious experience as a child?
Okay. Like I said, Mom and Dad milk cows, and so sometimes it made it hard for them to always get me to church. But I grew up here at Church Street. I've always attended here. But as I called them, Eddie and Coco brought me to church most every Sunday. Mom and Dad came, but I don't know, for some reason they were responsible to get me to church. Mm-hmm. So I came with them. We sat over on the east wing, and I grew up coming to church 3 times a week. I came Sunday night, and Wednesday night. A lot of times on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, we had a neighbor, Miss Vivian Jean, that lived in the neighborhood. And she would stop and pick me up on the way to church on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights. So that was the way I got here most of the time during the week.
So you have come to church here at Church Street as far back as you can remember?
Yes, sir.
From a very young age? From
a very young age. And my mama used to tell us, I don't remember it, but she said we used to sit on the front row because that way she could make us buy.
So you sound like you had a people that were looking out for you and teaching you about the Bible, teaching you about God and Jesus from a very young age. So I'm assuming that, like most of us that were raised going to church, that you were going to church mainly because of the people that you were going with, at least for a certain part of your life. But at some point in there, you had a decision to make, and that was whether this faith is belonging to the ones you call your grandparents or even your parents, or if it is yours. Was there a moment in time? Was there a period of time where you can remember that you said, I think this is not just me going with my grandparents or parents. This is me going because God is real to me? Well,
I guess really maybe the first time that I really realized that I wanted to come to church, not just because I was being maybe made or encouraged, was after I was baptized. And I was 13 when I got baptized here on a Sunday morning, and Bill Smotherman baptized me. And I can remember talking with him after that. And he was a great encouragement to me and I guess to my faith, because I felt like he made a major impact on my life.
Did you talk to him about baptism before you were baptized?
No, I shocked everybody that Sunday morning when I pulled out and walked down that middle aisle.
And do you remember what made you decide at that moment that's what you were going to do? Had you thought about it? Or
I had talked about it before, and I remember saying to Mama, I'm going to get baptized Easter Sunday. And she said, no, you're not. And I didn't quite understand. And she said, no, you don't plan when you're going to get baptized. She said, you'll know when you're ready. And so that Sunday morning, something pricked my heart. I don't remember what exactly, but I do remember the song we were singing and all that. But I don't know. I just felt like it was something I needed to do.
And you were 13 years old?
I was 13.
So that's what you would say is when you first started being interested in coming on your own, not because somebody was encouraging you to.
I think so. Of course, a lot of changes happen. When I went off to college, I remember that being an eye-opening experience. I had led pretty much what I'd call a sheltered life. I was very naive, and I was very, I didn't really know a lot of things. But going off to college, and Martin Methodist was a Christian school, but you really have some eye-opening experiences when you go off to college, especially when you live the sheltered life that I had. So I felt like at that time I had to make choices, and I had to make them on my own because Mama wasn't there to tell me I could or couldn't do something. And I think that's when I really started feeling a need to be in church.
Okay. So let's back up just a few years. What about your high school years? I'm assuming you went to Marshall County High School.
Went to Marshall County High School.
And you graduated when?
1974.
And what were your high school years like as far as church going? Was there activity with a youth group or anything like that?
Well, we did have a chorus here that I was involved in that some of our high school kids participated in. We sang on Sunday afternoons. We would always practice on Sunday afternoons before church. Several times we would go out in the community, and when there were, like, they'd have their worship service, but we would go and sing after the worship service on Sunday nights. I remember doing that. That was a lot of fun. We had a bus ministry here that I was involved in, and I went out and we went out on Saturdays and stopped and talked to people and tried to get them to come to church. And we had a pretty decent bus ministry there for quite a while. And Miss Nellie Umbles, I will never forget, she was one of the first ladies that I remember coming on the bus ministry. And Miss Nellie was very loyal and regular. She came every Sunday. And as far as I know, she attended church here until she died.
Yeah.
And she was a really sweet older lady. So we had that. And then trying to think what else was.
Were there quite a few people that rode the bus?
At the beginning, yes.
Did you have like a school bus kind of bus?
It was an old school bus, and we had that bus for a long time. We kept it here for a long time, but it's no longer with us. It kind of went along its way. But, we did have a youth group, and we would go sometimes on Sunday nights after church and to someone's house and play cards or eat or just, have a devotional, that kind of thing. And in my youth group, that was my first meeting with Bill Tankersley, as we know. He was the song leader here. He was still going to college at that time. But anyway, he led the singing here. And so that was my first interaction with Bill.
I have to throw this in because we've laughed for years about how Bill would always say, Talitha was just so sweet when she was young.
Yes, he used to remind me of that pretty regular. And I guess I did change quite a bit from that young, innocent person that I was when I was 13, 14 years old. But he used to give me a really hard time about that.
And so you went to school at Martin Methodist. What were you studying there?
Childhood education.
So did you have ambition of being a teacher?
At some point, two of my older sisters were teachers, and so I guess I was kind of encouraged in that path just a little bit. I did think I might want to do that, but I graduated in May of that 76 and got married in November, so there was no time to further my education.
So tell us about how you and Joe met, how your paths crossed. What part do you think God played in bringing the two of you together?
I'm not real sure. Joe and I really met, I guess, riding the school bus. He got in on the first end of the route, and my brother and I were the last ones to get on the bus. But we met on the bus, and bus rides with a load of kids is always a lot of fun. Of course, he was 4 years older than me, so he was one of the older kids on the bus. And so I'm sure I was harassing him a lot growing up. But it wasn't until I was in high school that I really got to know him better.
How old were you when you first were aware of him on the school bus?
Oh, probably maybe 9 or 10 years old.
Okay.
I mean, I was young. But when I was in high school, I think I was a junior, I had a lot of trouble with math, and I had a lot of trouble with history. And Joe's older brother, James, was, he did a lot of farming with my dad. They kind of went in shares on a lot of the hay and stuff. And so James was at our house a lot, and he, one day he said, I'm going to get my brother to come by here and help you with math, I don't know, something. So he got Joe and brought him to the house, and he began to help me with some of my homework. I don't remember. But there again, James was working with Dad, and Joe in the summer, because he was already off at UT then, and in the summer he would come in and help haul the hay and put up the hay and that kind of stuff. So during that, my end of my sophomore summer, after I'd finished my sophomore year, I started driving the hay truck in the hayfield. And so Joe and James and my brother and several of the younger men were all hauling hay. And I guess that was really my first close time with Joe, was during that summer when we were hauling hay.
So did you ever imagine at that time that you would one day be married to this man?
No, not really. But, it happened. He, like I say, he would hang around during the summer. And then I guess it was the summer of after I finished my junior year, that we started dating. And so we dated my senior year in high school, and then 2 years after I went to college.
So did you live at Pulaski while you were going to college, or did you commute?
Well, I had a dorm room, but I came home every weekend. I never stayed there. I don't think I ever stayed a weekend there, maybe one.
So were you dating Joe during those whole 2 years you were in college?
Yes, I was.
And so whenever you graduated, y'all had already made plans, I guess, to get married pretty soon as you got out of there.
Well, the strange thing was, when I graduated high school, he was at UT and Knoxville, and I had a room and had already registered to go to UT Knoxville that fall. And about 1st of July, I decided I wasn't going to Knoxville. Joe couldn't even get me there. That was just too far away from me. So I ended up going to Martin Methodist, and I really had some good times there, and it was a good experience.
So at some point then, how long were you married before children started coming into the family?
Okay, we married in 1976, and Mary was born August of 1980. So we were married 4 years.
Okay. And so life, I'm sure, was quite different when the little ones came along.
Yeah, I think that, you were talking about when your faith became your own. I think giving birth to a child is another time that you have really eye-opening experience that there is a God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just something about that newborn baby that's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe.
It is. And you never forget that, do you?
No, you don't.
There's also something that happens there when you become a parent for the first time and you start to realize, now I'm not only responsible for my own faith, but I have a responsibility to pass my faith to the next generation. And
that's been a very important part of our raising our children. We've brought them, I think Mary was brought to church when she was 2 weeks old. And they've always been told that we come to church, and I know one time I had somebody ask me, why do you have to go to church on Sunday night and Wednesday night? I said, well, you don't have to. I said, the only thing we're told to do is to come on Sunday mornings when the saints gather. But I said, Sunday night and Wednesday night are times when I get my encouragement from being there. Mm-hmm. And that's how I make it through the rest of the week is getting that build up at the middle of the week.
Well, and of course, I've known you for a little over 10 years now, and it's fascinating to me, having grown up in a different kind of culture where the churches I attended were not what I call a generational church like Church Street is. And it's fascinating even now for me to see you and your two daughters and their husbands and your grandchildren all worshiping together. I've never experienced that personally, and I just think that's something that you should be quite proud of.
It is a good feeling to know that not only your kids are here, but then you have those grandkids, and that's special when you can watch them grow and see them become, Christians too, we hope one day.
Yeah. And so what about your working career? After you got married, where did you go from there?
Okay. When Joe and I married, I was working at Cosmolab. I worked there until Mary was born. So that was 1980. And when Mary was born, I went home and was a mama for a while. I stayed at home until Hannah was in first grade, I believe. And when Hannah went to first grade, I went back to work in the school. And I was a teacher's assistant for about, 8 or 9 years.
Elementary school?
Mm-hmm. I worked at West Hills in the school there. I did in-school suspension. I helped with the kids that nobody wanted. But I tell you, those kids were special, and sometimes all they needed was just some one-on-one time with somebody and to know that somebody cared.
So how did you get from there to being secretary at the Church Street Church?
In 1998, Mary was fixing to graduate high school, and Miss Ann Dunn was the secretary here at the church. I had done some fill-in work for Miss Ann from time to time prior to that, But she was becoming where she was not able to do as much of the work as she once had done. And so they were kind of looking for somebody to take her place. I remember being approached by some of the elders here at that time, and they asked me, would I be interested? And I kind of thought about it and decided, well, it might not be a bad job, you know. So I agreed to come in and talk with them. So in June of 1998, I became the secretary here at Church Street.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
That's right.
Well, and I commend you because it's not just a secretarial position. You have made it a personal ministry, and it's your niche for making contribution, not financial contribution, but service contribution to this congregation that's appreciated by all.
Well, I enjoy my work and am glad that I'm able to do it.
So when you look from today forward, I know we don't have a crystal ball. We can't tell the future, but clearly God's been at work all through your life. Sometimes it's easier to see that as adults looking back than in the moment. Mm-hmm. But when you look forward from here, based on past experiences, what do you think God is up to now?
I just hope that He'll let me be a part of my grandchildren's life long enough to see them become a Christian. That's, I guess, something that I look forward to, is knowing that they have made the decision to follow Christ. And I don't know. I hope I can work a long time. But, we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, there are days, I think, for all of us when we'd like to just kind of walk away, wouldn't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Talitha, I appreciate you being with me today. And, of course, we spend a lot of time together because we work together. For those of you who haven't picked up on it already, Talitha has been the longtime secretary here at the Church Street congregation for many, many years and has been a close personal friend of mine for the last 10 years. Rough start, as we like to talk about, when I first moved here, because I think you and Bill both were somewhat skeptical of the new guy, but
just to be honest, we were, but we've learned to love you.
And it's turned into a great friendship, and I appreciate you and not only what you mean to this church, but what you mean to me personally.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being with me, and that's this week's edition of Unveiled. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to Unveiled, a presentation of the Church Street Church of Christ in Lewisburg, Tennessee. I am Kyle Bolton, the pulpit minister at Church Street, and I would like to personally invite you to come be with us during our times of worship and Bible study together. We meet every Sunday at 9 o'clock a.m. for our morning worship, followed by Bible classes for all ages at 10:15 a.m. We meet again on Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock p.m. We also have a midweek meeting for further Bible study on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. I would also like to invite you to tune in to this radio station every Monday through Saturday from 6:40 to 6:45 a.m. for our daily devotional program called Upreach. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.
In His presence there is comfort. In His presence there is peace. When we seek the Father's heart, we will find such blessed assurance in the presence of the Lord.
In His presence there is comfort. In His presence there is peace. When we
Come